We are going live. Yeah, it still doesn't go to Facebook. That's okay, but we will have it on YouTube. It's all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mindset Spot, where we are now having a conversation on how we can be able to build value without necessarily having to chase cloud. And so I'm joined by my co-host Daniel Afumbomunang. Afu, how are you?
Well, it's great to be back, and this is a really interesting episode. It's the sequel to what we did last week, and it's from clout chasing to building value. So through this, we'll be able to display ways on how we can chase solutions rather than chasing clout on social media.
Absolutely. Chase solutions rather than chasing cloud. It is said very clearly that if you want to build value, then you have to be focused. And so, for those of you who are joining in today, we are here to guide you on a journey of meaningful impact. And always remember this African proverb that a tree is known by its fruits. And today, let's learn how to bear fruits that nourishes not just ourselves but the entire community. So, as we know, Maya Angelou once said that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never ever forget how you made them feel. So, Afu, can you help our audience understand what cloud chasing is and why is it important that we're discussing this and why it might feel rewarding initially, but at the end of the day, the person who causes it doesn't really help in anything?
Yeah, so I have a really good analogy for this with a water bottle. So let's say this water bottle is fame, right? The fame, it just keeps on going, but you keep on running after it. The more you run after it, the more it'll go because trends keep on evolving and things, something that was trendy last week may be out of fashion this week. So to clout chasing in simple terms is just trying to chase fame and trying to chase popularity rather than chasing your goals because your goals they're there and your the goals are in a stable place but you're going towards them but trends they keep on evolving, they keep on changing, and as human beings we're not butterflies, we don't metamorphosize within a week, so we cannot keep on chasing this clout, and the more we chase the clout the more behind we are on our value growth chain.
Yeah, very important aspect that you are discussing there, which and I think it takes us to this point that, like you've said, that cloud chasing involves actions aimed at gaining visibility and attention, and primarily through social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, which is really the model of it. And it's appealing because it offers quick recognition and praise for applause, which can be exciting at that moment, but it doesn't last that long. Which means, for instance, if someone might post risky stuff online, abusing people just to get more likes and shares, but this often comes with lasting personal damage as well as uh, things said that will come back to haunt one in future without any community benefit. So, Afu, do you think, like you've explained, that there is a saying? Okay, there is a saying that says that empty pots make the loudest noise. Could you put this within the drawbacks of this chasing cloud? Is it that there is not something to offer, or what do you think?
Well, I do think that everybody has something to offer inherently, but what it's up to us whether we choose to tap into that. And the saying that empty pots clap the loudest is a lot. It's very true because when other people see someone who's trying, like let's use soccer as an example. Let's say like right now Chelsea and Nottingham Forest are playing. Let's say for example Nottingham loses. The fans who have no experience playing soccer are gonna be like, oh, this player that, this player this, but however, if the people who are on their own grind, people who are focusing, people who are growing, they're the ones who generally are do not have the most to say. But when you look at the biggest haters on the internet, the chances of them being unemployed, the chances of them having very sad lives are exponentially higher than those who are commenting positive things. Because sad misery likes company, right? So if a bunch of people around you are people who are goalless, ambitiousless, and people who their priority is just looking at the next trend and trying to emulate that without figuring out how to be a trend, how to create value, then that is how the saying empty pots clap the loudest is perpetuated in society.
What a beautiful way to sum that up, Afu. I like it because, of course, focusing solely on cloud, as you said, can lead to superficial achievement that don't contribute to personal as well as professional growth. And so, if you were to take a practical example here, someone may become popular online for controversial opinions that may stir conflict, but this can damage long-term relationships. And therefore, it is very, very important to always think of the consequences of what we do, say, and how it's going to haunt us into the future. That takes me to the next point, which is building value, which is a very important aspect of this conversation. Ralph Emerson once said that the purpose of life is not to be happy, it is to be useful, it is to be honorable, and it is to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. So, Afu, what do you think are practical ways that our young people who are listening to us today can shift from seeking approval to creating real value?
Yeah, so with the quote you said, I semi disagree with it. I think that it is part of our purpose to be happy, but the way that we become truly happy is by fulfilling and solving a problem. So although it says life isn't to be happy, it's kind of a domino effect that once you create opportunities, once you create solutions, once you build value, then you'll start to feel happiness because you're changing lives, and that's the true form of happiness. So to answer your question, I think that what we can do to shift from this mindset is to think about our digital footprints. And this, it can't be a mindset spot interview without us talking about digital footprint, because
Right.
digital footprint can both affect you positively and negatively for those of you guys who are watching for the first time. And through clout chasing, it can become a way for us to bring our digital footprint down, because let's say a trend is insulting this person, even though you may not feel in your heart that it's right, because it'll give you maybe 10,000 views rather than 10 views of talking about something positive, you'll go do it anyways. So what we need to do is think long term and think about what we're truly passionate about and focus on that, because nobody's really passionate about spreading hate. That's like not a passion. But somebody
Right.
may be passionate about sustainability, someone may be passionate about medicine, someone may be passionate about law, finance. If we spread what we're passionate about, or someone may even be passionate about music, if we spread what we're doing in a way so that we can build value, because without building value, nobody's going to be attracted to you. And if people are attracted to you because of clout, they're just attracted to you for the wrong reason. So long story short, we need to build value so that we can be an asset to other people's lives rather than a liability, which is done through clout chasing.
Wow, wow. We can be an asset to other people's lives rather than be a liability. Is that right?
Yeah.
Rather than be a liability. And I think this aspect of mentioning liability is, do you think that people who project problems, who always complain, who always stir up negativity, are actually liability or their assets?
Well, I think that that short answer, they're liability, but long answer, let me delve into that. The reason why they're liabilities is because, for example, in a business deal, if somebody comes to you, we talked about this last episode, but if somebody comes to you with, instead of showing what they can do, talking about all their problems, all their traumas, all their sob stories, everything like that, then it becomes very hard to see that person in a serious manner and, to be honest, take them serious because they're not providing value. But once we do provide value, it makes us assets, because people will want to come, people will want to flock to us rather than flock away from us. So by chasing clout and complaining and blame gaming, that becomes a liability, because nobody wants to be around negative vibes, negativity 24/7. People want to be around people who are bringing ideas, solutions, and positive mindset change. But if we're surrounded by brain rot and we're surrounded by negative energy 24/7, it's not going to bring us towards our goals, and it's not going to uplift us as a community.
Very beautiful way of saying this, Afu. What I would like us to look at is, like you've rightly explained, when you project negativity, you may feel comfortable in your own self, but you are not doing any justice. And so the reality then becomes, we must be able to leverage our skills and talents and showcase what we can be able to offer. And so if you take a young Kuda, for example, instead of using their skills to just create viral content, they could develop an app that helps local farmers predict weather patterns, which is an example that help local farmers enhance their agricultural productivity. And so the kind of project not only aids the community, but also builds the Kudas portfolio in a meaningful way, which means if you are doing sowing, you are doing work that turn agricultural waste into fuel briquettes, into fertilizer. Start to project what you do. So, Afula, let's take me to this point, which is an aspect before I hand over to you that I think we need to look at. And let me start off from this dimension that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. This was said by Gandhi. He put it very clearly. So, could you explain how somebody who is watching us now and has been viral on social media for wrong reasons can reshape his or herself to be on the right path?
Yeah, so I think we just need to think about short-term pain, long-term gain. And this is
Absolutely.
very prevalent because although, like, let's say the saying, it's if it's too good to be true, it probably is. If you're posting something about like insulting people, being basically a hater, a troll on the internet, although it may feel good right now because you're getting like 100,000 likes, upvotes, everything. In the next few years, when you're applying for a job, will it really be beneficial? No. But if you put your head down, lock in, focus, post stuff that are related to your brand, post stuff that uplifts others, post stuff that builds value and creates solutions, then although it may be hard now, in the future, it'll definitely pay off. People will look at you and like, wow, you're a solutions creator rather than wow, you're a problem person.
Excellent. Perfect. Over to you, Afu.
Yeah, so this is the part of the show for those of you guys who are first watching where I get to interview and I get to pose questions to Dr. Manang. So my first question is, how do you think within the continent and within the world social media can be used to build value? Because a lot of people see social media, a lot of people scroll on reels, they don't see things that are mainly solution based, they see entertainment, which is good, but how come there's a fine line between entertainment and clout chasing? And how can you say that we can focus rather on solution building and hence entertainment and creating, because entertainment is value, right? Because we find it funny, but where's the fine line between jokes for fun and bullying, which is clout chasing?
Yeah, very important point. I mean, the reality is that if you look at these social media spaces, they were created for people to interact, and human beings are conversational beings that can communicate negative as well as positive and can share ideas, but negative as well as positive. What has become, which is really the nature of human beings, is, as we say, bad news travels further than good news, and therefore negativity seems to have traction. And given the fact that social media platforms, especially Facebook and others, have started monetizing, people want to get more views and more likes, and therefore they focus on what can trend rather than on what can be able to add value to people's lives. And because human nature tends to move towards what seems like negativity, the negative news seems to have overshadowed the social media space. So, what needs to happen is that these negative aspects do not last long. And that is one thing that everybody needs to understand. You can have fame, but destroy your name. And your biggest asset is your name. And therefore, being famous for 5 minutes or for 5 days or for 5 months to then destroy your name for 5 years or for 50 years, which one will you choose? And so, leveraging the social media space to then be able to build value, regardless of whether you have views or not, to be remembered that you did brought in something new, which was not easy because negativity always trumps positivity. It doesn't mean that people are not looking for positive solutions. And therefore, when we bring what we can offer, what we do, how we turn problems into opportunities, how we turn challenges into opportunities, how we can then be able to pivot away from the mainstream narratives that are easy, which is of blaming, of complaining, to now of doing, of showcasing that it has been done, then we would have not only touched lives, but we'll be setting a precedent that others can then be able to follow. And so, to answer your question in a nutshell, let's bring value. And that value should be to drive positivity, not negativity. That value should be to showcase what we do to turn challenge into opportunities, not what we do to create problems.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Turn challenges into opportunities rather than to turn challenges into amplified problems. And my next question for you is, how do you think with this digital space, one with clout chasing being so prevalent, what would you say to young people who just want to get famous, who just want to have their name known? Because like you said, your name is your biggest asset. So what would you say to people who are trying to get their name known, no matter the case, whether it's clout chasing, whether it's solution, they just want to be known. What would you say?
Yeah, what I've learned in my entire career is that a name is not necessarily just a name. It is what is behind the name. Richard Munang is not just a name. It is what does that name carry. And as a result of that, it means that you must be able to put something that your name can be identified with. When you put Richard Munang, what pops up? So Richard Munang is not just a name. It is what it stands for. It is what the person who is named with that name is doing. And therefore, a name moves beyond just a name to represent what an individual stands for, what an individual does, and what value that individual brings to the community. And so a name moves from just being an identification of an individual to what that individual is doing, to what that individual stands for. And so your name becomes your asset, and more an asset when people identify with it and see what the person behind that name does. It then means if your name Daniel Munang Afumbom is put up, what does the person behind that name does and what does she stands for? And so because of that, we must put value in our name so that when we are mentioned, people will say, oh, you mean that girl, you mean that guy? He is doing great. It is no longer that name Munang anymore. It is what the person behind that name has done. And if you've done negative things, you will be judged. That, oh, you mean that person who has been posting very negative stuff? Or you mean that person who has been posting very positive stuff? Oh, I learned from your writings and I'm today a better person. Oh, your writings have been so negative that I've actually blocked you from my page. Are you now trying to see that the name once carry goes beyond just as an identification of an individual? It goes to stand and present what you do. And so for the young people who want to become popular, the question then becomes, popular for what? What have you in that name you want to be known do? And so when you project your name to be known with that value in it, it becomes a liability because people will know you with that substance and that will work against you. So my advice to young people who use social media today is to use it to build value by projecting what you are doing and continue to build that value so that at least you can attract people who can then have that trust in you and that authenticity that this is someone of value. Value is cultivated, value is built, and value is never given.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Value is cultivated. So for those of you guys watching who obviously popularity, obviously fame, that's stuff that humans inherently want, but in order to get the true fame and in order to get the true popularity and true value, we must cultivate it rather than trying to chase something that doesn't exist. Because a trend is not tangible, whereas solutions are, and solution trends cannot necessarily change lives, but solutions can. And we have a comment from Tata Hamburgo saying, hello, Black Beauty Daniela. How are you today, Princess? Happy to listen to you talking. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
And we're glad that you're on the show today.
Excellent. I should always ask you when she comments on my post. Thanks for joining. Share this Tata Humble Girl so other people can come and listen and learn from this amazing conversation. Yes, that was a very important question. And then let me throw this back to you. From what you've heard, that there is power in a name, that the name is not just an identification, but it represents the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you build the good, that name goes beyond just being a name to represent value. Do you think people do have understood and people have this kind of attribution to a name the way you've heard today?
I think so, but from the wrong angle. Similarly to what I previously said, I think that people want to be famous, people want to be known, people want to be quote unquote popular. However, what we need to realize is that although your name may be known, why is it known? And is it known for, oh, this person is really good at XYZ, this person uplifts my day, I love when this person pops up on my TikTok, I love when this person pops up on my Reels? Or is it, oh, every single time this person pops up, I feel depressed, always talking about the most negative stuff. Every single time I go through a comment section, I see this person berating another. So to answer your question, I think that the power is truly in a name, and people realize that. But what people have to realize is that power can be both positive and negative. And once we chase clout, it becomes more negative. But once we chase value, it becomes more positive.
Excellent. Once we chase value, it becomes more positive. But do you think with what we see today, with everybody wanting to train, not understanding that when you train for wrong reasons, you actually destroy your name, because you have to put value in that name so that people can recognize you as a person of value, as that person who is going to bring different ideas. And people don't understand, like I've said, your biggest asset is not money, it's not material, it's your name. People can believe you and trust you. When you mention that name, doors open. When you mention that name, banks give you a loan. That's how people need to understand that when you destroy your name, it's very, very difficult to build back that reputation. And that reputation on its own is so important. It can give you anything, but it takes time to build reputation. Do you think that this message has been choreographed to be taught in school, or this is the first time we're actually trying to push it out?
Well, I think that from a school perspective, we have to realize that school isn't just the four walls of a classroom. Even our podcast right now, this could be considered school, because school is just a place where you learn and you gain new insights. So I do think that it's being taught, but the question is it being listened to? Because to build value, to cultivate growth, to be a change, to have your name work for good rather than to have your name work for bad, it's something that takes time. And a lot of people don't want to take that time. A lot of people don't want to lock in for a few years, find their niche, find their passion, and grow. But they'd rather do something that is a get-rich-quick scheme, or something that is a clout-chasing activity, following trend. If somebody's saying this, I'm saying that, even if I don't necessarily agree with it. So to answer your question, I think that, yes, it's being taught, but what we need to do is have it really ingrained in people's brains, so that whenever they're posting something, they're thinking about, will this affect me positively down the line, or will it affect me negatively?
Right. And that takes me now to the next point, as we have this conversation of the attitude of negativity always traveling faster than positivity. And how young people, because let's face it, the entire world population as we speak today is 8.4 billion people. And half of this population is under the age of 30. Half of this population is under the age of 30. And most of these people were born after the 90s. And most of them, and the bulk of them, born after the 2000s. But they came at a time, they were born at a time in which the technological move or advancement was at what I call top gear. And the fact that it was at this level meant that they got into a space that have not existed before, in which our values were preserved. But now those values seems to have been overshadowed with the technological advancement, with social media, with WhatsApp and etc., whereby information communicated, even without verification, seems to be adopted as if it is the norm. And this has led to destruction. This has led to false narratives and false beliefs that then make people to carry that false belief and false narrative and end up in a ditch. Now that that is happening, how do we reboot to get back to where we are supposed to be, which is respect, humility, patience, endurance, dedication to build value? Because now it's about pressing a button to get what you have not worked for, rather than enduring short-term pain for long-term gain. What says you, Afu?
Yeah, so I think you brought up a really good point. And what we have to realize is that the algorithm, it's a computer system, which is very prevalent in every single technology has an algorithm. The fact that you're seeing this right now means that the algorithm has pushed it to you. So the way that the algorithm works is it's based on your past clicks, right? If what you're liking, if what you're interacting with on social media is all negativity, it's all clout chasing, it's all people berating each other, it's all social media gossip and tea, then you're not going to necessarily be seeing positivity, because what you're interacting with is negative. However, when you interact with positive things, when you interact with quotes, motivational talks, then you're going to see that more. And what we have to realize is that it depends on us. We can't be like, why am I not seeing this? My entire page is filled with negativity. It's because you're interacting with negativity. It's not going to show if you're not interacting with it. So it starts with you, to answer the question. It starts with you. Once you change your mind to be like, saying no to negativity and say yes to solutions and say yes to value, then you too will be able to leverage social media and have a feed which is surrounded by growth and upliftment rather than have a feed which is filled with berating and downgrading.
Very important point you are bringing up there. Very, very novel. Well done for that amazing perspective. Now, that takes me now to a point that I would like you, and you can ask me that question. And for those of you who are watching, please, in the chat, share what you can share. And please come and provide ideas and ask questions, please. Afu, so the point is this. When you look at the attitude of everybody wanting to trend, and now with the algorithm in social media, especially on Facebook, with people who are following the negativity, and then the algorithm understanding it and sending more of those such messaging to the person, it ends up with the person thinking he or she is popular, but he or she is destroying his or herself without knowing. And with the pressure, peer pressure to become a celebrity for whatever reason, which I don't know, without anything to offer as a niche, as a fashion designer, as an environmentalist, a scientist, as a builder or an electrician or etc. Why is it that society is not rising up to say enough? We are going in the wrong direction. And now that they're not rising up, what should we do? What do you think we should do to guide young people?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, I think that the reason why society is not putting a halt to this is because, to be honest, it's very entertaining. When you see two people beefing,
Wrong entertainment.
Yeah, it is entertaining. I can't even lie. It is. But what we have to realize is that although it's entertaining, will it bring food on our table? And if it is bringing food on our table, is it sustainable? Because negativity is not sustainable. You can't be a multimillionaire. You can't touch lives by being a hater on the internet 24/7. That's
Right.
not going to happen. So to answer your first question, I think that a lot of people get looped into this mindset because it is entertaining, it is funny, but after a while, once you're the victim of the hate, it's not so funny anymore. But to answer the second part of your question, I think that a way that we can shift this is what I previously said, is by it starts with us. When we see something negative, instead of liking, commenting, sharing it to our friends, we should start sharing to our friends uplifting stuff. We should start sharing to our friends things that can provide value, things that can make us assets rather than liabilities. So like Nike, just do it and just share the positive stuff and stop sharing things that will keep on coming up on your algorithm, which then you can't say, and you'll end up saying, why do I always have negativity? Because it starts with you. If you say no to negativity and yes to positivity, then you'll be able to build the chain of value production.
Yes, and as you're speaking, there is some unwitty attitude that people don't want to listen to anything that can shift them from their current state of affairs, which is, in one word, negativity. But there are a lot of positive things that are happening, and positivity that is dotted all over the world, and more so in the African continent. We are seeing young people. For example, there is Adesowa in Nigeria who shifted from fashion blogging to creating eco-friendly clothing. There is you there who is doing fashion and redesigning using eco-friendly clothing. And when we look at people who are doing these things, they don't even have a lot of followers. But yet, there are so many people who come and complain how the world is not as it should be. So the question then becomes, what are you doing to make the world as it should be, rather than as it is? And so when we look at influences we can bring, for example, the example of the Nigerian and so many people, Cameroonians, Ghanaians, Kenyans, etc., doing what they can do, leading workshops on making clothes from recycled material, showcasing their work, not only influencing fashion, but also promoting environmental conservation. When these aspects are shared, 2 or 3 likes will be there. So what I want to advise young people is don't bother about likes or comments. Just keep doing what you are doing. One day, what you have put out there that was meaningful will pick up. And at that time, you will not even have known that it was ever going to pick up. Over to you, Afu.
Yeah, excellent. And I have a question for you before we round up, is that like you've said, we see plenty of innovative volunteers, plenty of motivated people across the world saying yes to positivity and no to negativity and clout chasing. Is there anything special that sets them apart? And to someone watching, they may think that getting to this level is far and few between, that it's a 1 in a million chance that they can be successful for the right reasons. What do you say to that? And that is there something setting these people apart? And if there is not, how can each and every person start?
Something setting which people apart.
Like, is there something special that those who are choosing positivity have? And if there isn't anything special, then how can everyone start?
Yeah, there is something special that sets positive people apart. The reality is that the world have more challenges than it have solutions for those challenges, whether it is water, sanitation that needs alternative solutions, or it is a dryer that can be able to add value to food that is produced, or we're just talking replacement of charcoal that actually cause indoor pollution that kill people to fuel briquettes or to biogas. The solutions that are needed are at the higher level, but the response to provide those solutions is not happening at the speed and scale that is needed. And therefore, those who are focused on solutions set themselves apart in that they do what society needs. And those who are focused in negativity, because there's no negative comment or negative write-up or negative discussion that have ever solved a problem. It only causes problems. And therefore, those who spur negativity are contributing to the world's problems. And therefore, history will never remember them. And those who are driving positivity by contributing to solutions, though they are few and might not see the immediate results to get gratification at the moment, they are going to be on the trajectory of history that will remember them for good. And so, what set these two people apart is that those who drive positivity put in effort to devise solutions. They're dedicated and passionate and do it because it's not about them, but it's about community. It's about touching the lives of others. Because to live and to have succeeded is to have done something that changes someone's life in one way, just a word that inspired them. That's action. Just your effort to be able to use eco-friendly material to design fashion that can then be able to make sure that people are not putting pressure on the environment. That's actually something that you've contributed. And so the answer is simple. What sets them apart is that one group of people that drive positivity are dedicated, passionate, and think beyond themselves and think about the impact of what they do in other people's lives. Those that drive negativity think about only themselves and want to have that short-term fame using destruction, but unfortunately, it comes back to haunt them later on. And at that time, had I known, it's always Mr. Late.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And what I've gotten from this is that you have said that there is a difference, but the difference is not that they have 6 fingers or they have 3 eyes or that they have
2 years,
yeah,
4 years.
5 ears or they have 7 heads. It starts within you. And although they may have their differences, it's not something that cannot be replicated. Each and every single person can replicate this through being able to set their pride aside and set their hunger for fame aside and produce a hunger for solutions and produce a
Right.
hunger for building value. And as we wrap up today, I want to say it starts with you. It starts with you to be able to say no to negativity and say yes to building value and say yes to not cloud chasing and say no to the negativity and the following the crowd, which leads to unsuccess down the road.
Wonderful. What a beautiful way to have had this amazing conversation and end up this way. So, what's your last word, Afu?
Well, my last word based on that little spiel is it starts with you. You don't need to have 11 arms. You don't need to have 25 fingers to be a change maker. What you need to have is the drive to create solutions to problems that people really face. And once you find what you're passionate about, then the passion will turn into solutions, then the solutions will turn into value. And maybe with that value, you'll be able to buy a Lamborghini. But if we start thinking about the Lamborghini, if we start thinking about the trend without thinking about the value, then it'll never come. And once we begin with the value and once we begin with the passion, then everything is up to us.
Absolutely. Everything is up to us. And for those of you who have been listening, please share this. It might help just one or two people out there. to change their perspective and recalibrate the way they engage with social media. They say education is not only in the four corners of a classroom, but education is everywhere. And when we come here only with one agenda: to inform, to inspire, and to educate. With that, for those of you who have tuned in, it's always been a pleasure, because let's hold fast to this proverb that when the roots are deep, there's no reason to fear the wind. Strive to plant deep roots in the pursuit of meaningful, lasting achievements and meaningful conversation on social media. Thank you all for joining on this journey. And remember that the fruit of your labor is the sweetest of all rewards. Until then, let's keep inspiring one another. Bye-bye.